So we mean to reach out to an international, broader audience. I've always asked myself this question whether it would be best to go to movie theatre or perhaps reach out people in their homes. I think the latter is the right answer. Movie theatres is fine, yes, but they're placed in cities already. Big cities, they have a concert hall, movie theatres, and they can benefit from many cultural initiatives. Whereas in this case, we really want to reach out to people, whether or not they live in a big city. We want to be able to broadcast to the benefit of those people living in the Alps or perhaps in the South, in the Latin American pampas. And this is very much the universal message of music. Reach out to people wherever they are, both domestic and international. There is a second goal, which is the one to really develop a so-called modern contemporary archive, a catalogue of everything we have developed so far. When talking through La Scala, we talk through opera, ballet, but nobody ever mentions or not too much concert and children's content. Whereas we believe that being able to have a high quality archive, which includes many different events. I'm sure it will be greatly appreciated. So, developing archiving, but also make that very archive available to people. Uh, to people, to a broader audience. So everything that we record, audio, video, this is something that we've been doing for a number of years already. Think about the broadcast of the opening night on December 7th. We did start a few years ago, and it was back in '77 with Otello, directed by Skyber, and there's so many tapes in our museum. And on top of being a professional, let me tell you that I'm also opera lover. I'm a ballet lover as well, and I do dream, of rediscovering those treasures that I could only watch on a very small TV set when I was a child. And these tapes do exist. These recordings exist, and currently we are exhibiting in our marvelous exhibition. It is a very popular, very famous character, take Zeffirelli, but we do also have Estrella. We do have recordings from Ronconi. We do have Claudia Bado and Riccardo Muti recordings. And I've always had this dream of, allowing people to rediscover these pearls from the past, and actually allowing more and more people to attend our international audience as well. And this is what the project is all about. And there's more to it. Something that again, I'm very fond of. And that is the idea to modernize in a way what Paolo Grassi used to do in the past. Remember, he used to visit schools, he used to go to schools and talk to people, teachers, students. And well, of course, now boys and girls are coming to see rehearsals in La Scala, but think about the students living in the southern part of the country. Perhaps they also wish they could come, and maybe they could come once if they travel to Milan, but they can't do it on a regular basis, of course. And and the same is applicable for schools which are outside Italy. If you take a cultural institute, for instance, how beautiful it would be and it will be to communicate to international people, to people abroad. So it is important for us from a cultural standpoint, and not only. So that is very much the first goal. There's a second goal, which is perhaps more associated to my experience as a viewer. And let me tell you honestly, I'm not always so happy about traditional broadcasts. And why is that? Because, when you're very familiar with the performance and then you watch it on television and you become a bit frustrated. I I found myself observing too many cuts, for instance, and there are too many close-ups, zooming in. For instance, I don't like to see the sweat of the singer being Gilda when she's about to die. I don't want to see teeth. I don't want to be scared whilst the dancer is about to touch the very top of the ceiling when he's jumping. And I don't like to see cut arms of dancers and singers. I don't want to gain the impression of being in Foro Italico when there's a duet. You see, you always the person singing, and you never see the reaction of the second character in the duet. So we want to provide a more of a neutral way of watching and appreciating the performance, and we want to give directors his very key job, his very key role, because I do believe this is so essential when you want to appreciate art from distant, you know. I don't like this kind of pornographic attitude of being very close, you know, zooming in on certain details. We want to preserve that magic, and we want to get across that impression that anybody would have, like you were sitting in the fifth row in the stalls, you know. And this is an objective that will be able to reach out much better today because cameras are fantastic, 4K, so very high quality. And people, they're now having larger screens at home, so they may actually see that in a much better way. And that changes the perspective a lot. I don't know whether you've experienced that in the first place, but if you watched an opera performance 4K on a large screen, it's a marvelous experience. You really gain that impression of sitting there, of being right there, sitting in the audience. Well, it goes without saying that we don't we don't want the you know what is broadcasted to be as fascinating, as exciting as being on site, of course. But still, I believe that it would be beautiful to see those performances, to take advantage of those beautiful events in a very good condition. The other thing that I'm quite doubtful of as a viewer, you know, in traditional broadcasts, you're usually being disturbed by noises, technicians are talking, there are lights, noises, you know, and things that you sometimes hear. Whereas this new generation of cameras, as I was saying, it's completely noise free. So no noise whatsoever. For over a year, we have, let's say, broadcast, and perhaps you have realized yourself, because there's no noise. It's totally noise free. And you know, and it is not mandatory anymore to modify, to change lights for the sake of broadcasting. This is something that has been troublesome in the past, whereas this new brand generation of cameras, let's say, do not expect lights to be changed. So you don't need to change the nature of the performance. You can absolutely respect the nature of the performance. And that works very well for the viewer in the audience as well as for the viewer who's watching from home, from his screen at home. Now, this is very much the objective. So how did we do that? Well, we have invested, thanks to our partners, and we have invested in setting up new cameras, 4K, as I said, and we have invested in a studio, and then thanks to our engineers, we have developed our internet connection much better. Let me tell you something. When I joined, I didn't have internet connection in my office. I was supposed to be online through the museum, thanks to Donatella, and I would be interrupted the minute the museum was shut down, you know, because the working hours were over and I was no longer online. Now, of course, if you want to get across, if you want to broadcast images, 4K, you must have a much greater capabilities, you know, and that is exactly what we're at right now, because you want to make this feasible. And the fiber also, now fiber has joined many households nowadays, and this allows us to broadcast 4K. It was not possible up until a while ago. I remember when we started back in Vienna, because people, they were really keen on following what we would broadcast, but then they had a very poor internet connection, and unfortunately it was very bit disappointing for them. But this problem is no longer there, thank goodness. We did invest greatly into human resources, into people. We have a team of 8 people devoted to broadcasting events. Sound is taken care of by our sound engineers, and I can tell you I'm very happy with the outcome. Extremely high quality, very well made, and with great passion. I can literally tell there's great passion. So I'm so very happy. Everything that I'm now hearing, it's something that I totally appreciate. Also, we have decided to increase subtitles, the translation to other languages, as we do want to be an international market. We also want to communicate in the language of the viewer, and we're starting with 5 languages. And so for those which are already in the programs, will allow 2 3 languages for subtitles. This coming summer, we're also going to replace the small screens in the stalls for people watching, and the audience will read subtitles from small tablets. And actually, the same efforts it's something that we're going to incorporate also in this project. I think that's very positive. You know, the overall objective for us is to reach out 8 foreign languages. And let me open a bracket here. La Scala is very happy to say that we have recovered the 30% of foreign visitors and viewers coming to La Scala, which was the pre-pandemic level. Now, I think we have to welcome these viewers in a satisfactory manner. It is important for them to understand what they're listening to and listen in their own language where it's possible. So we're going to have 2 different kind of offerings. One is going to be live streaming, and the second is going to be a catalog. And then, of course, Andre Comploy will talk through this in a moment. But basically, so the live streaming will be of course what we are broadcasting, what we can broadcast live. And for a year, as far as the catalog, we have started to record a number of events. And of course, we will make available to the audience some recordings from the past. And and again, I'm talking in the shoes, of course, of a ballet lover, of an opera lover. I think it is so interesting to be able to access recordings from the past, the performances from the past. There will be a payment, of course, and prices. It's something that Lee Cowley will introduce in a moment. So, according to the person asking to watch HD or Ultra HD, so 4K, well, the latter will be a little bit more expensive because it is a little bit more pricey for us, you know, it's because of technical costs. So, this is why we're differentiating. And that is the global architecture, so to speak. I'd love to ask Sylvia Farina now, as she's taking care of the website right now as I speak, and she's preparing a new website soon to be launched. So if she can introduce La Scala TV. We are actually broadcasting the trailer that we were unable to show a moment ago. Well, hopefully, if it works, otherwise we can skip it. Let's see if it works. Looks like there's no sound. No, there is sound. Okay, I am about to share my screen. Okay, I should be able to start in a moment. Okay, LaScalaTv. So the user landing on the platform will come across a homepage with a slideshow, which are clearly emphasizing the next live streaming events or the latest novelties. So right now, you see this is the next live event, a Vespri Siciliani or concert from Daniel Harding, and the countdown is clearly visible with date and time. If we scroll down the same page, we come across the playlist, operas, ballet, concert, which are part of the catalog, both those on demand as well as a live streamed event. If the users goes on the top left hand side drop down menu, he'll see how he can take advantage of these events, live on demand, educational, and so on. Also, the user might refer to the frequently asked questions, which provides support, of course, if needed. There's also a possibility to subscribe a newsletter and log in. So log in, it means how to register to the platform, and that can easily happen on the top right hand side. You see I'm clicking on the login, and I'd love to spend a few words here. What's important to say is that if you have credentials already from the institutional website of Teatro alla Scala, so teatroallascala.org, and you already receive a monthly newsletter, you can actually access this very platform through the same credentials. Of course, if you forgot the password, you may retrieve your password. If you're a new user, you may develop a new account, and you're redirected to the registration form where you're being asked name, family name, nationality, email address. If you consent for marketing purposes, then you have the possibility to subscribe to the monthly newsletter from Teatro alla Scala to receive information on what is on, and or the periodical newsletter from LaScalaTv to find out more about events from catalog or the next live streamed event. I do have my credentials, so I'm now logging in with my credentials. So the platform will recognize me, you see. And I decide that because I love ballet, I want to rent a ballet, let's say Giselle. So I go on to Giselle page. It opens up this way. So a full page, and clearly you see the buttons rent, trailer, and as you scroll down the page, you may be informed about additional information, such as a creative team, the cast of the ballet, but also what season the performance was recorded, some additional information around the ballet itself, and then some in-depth content, the plot for the ballet, and interviews to cast. And if you scroll down further, any suggested video from the platform. I decide that I want to rent this very performance, and I click on it. Now, this is the next page where I'm deciding whether I want to rent a 4K or a high definition. I do select the 4K, but before I actually move to payment, I'm supposed to test to see how my device will allow me to see based on my bandwidth. Once the test is over, I will then confirm that I stick to the general conditions and that I've done the test, and I can move to the payment. Each and every time I'm renting a new content, I'll find it in my personal area, sitting there. So today, for instance, I've rented La Callisto opera, and I may see it, I may watch it for 72 hours from the moment I rent it. So if I click on play, I may decide at this point to choose whether to have subtitles in English or in Italian or no subtitles. Let's say that I want to choose Italian subtitles. So as I carry on, see, I can click on this icon, on the settings icon here, and I may further decide to visualize subtitles with different background, font, color. I may even change the font size because perhaps they're too small for me to read, or else I may want to minimize it, and make it smaller. So I like it, and I if I want to see that again, I can see that, of course. Yes, yes, you can watch it for 72 hours from the moment you rent. You can watch it as many times as you want for 72 hours, even 100 times. Well, there wouldn't be enough time, potentially. Yes, 100 times in 72 hours. That's not possible. I agree, it's not possible. I do remember clearly duration for La Callisto. Yes, you may actually watch it from any device, and you may also connect to any smart TV you have at home, either through cable or Wi-Fi connection. And if you want to watch it on a larger screen when you're back home, you can do it. Yes, a beautiful toy, I'd love to call it. Very happy that it works so well. And we have prepared a full list of events. Some are there already, and we're currently working on the program for the upcoming months. Andre, can you walk us through this? Well, yes, of course. I will introduce the titles up until the summer season, and then, of course, there'll be some surprise from the months forward. So we're starting February 14th, and I'm talking about the live streaming events. So we're starting next week at St. Valentine's and I Vesperi Siciliani. Oh, nicely, nice, and nice, the perfect one for St. Valentine's Day. Yes, indeed. And the following, after Vesperi Siciliani, there will be three opera titles: La Bohème, Le Conte of Man, March 25th, and Le Zita in Galera, April 21st. So, four opera titles live streamed. We're going to have two ballets, Le Corsaire, and in June, Romeo and Juliet, June 11. Also, almost all concerts between now and summer. We're going to start February 18th with the concert conducted by Daniel Harding, Philharmonica La Scala, and then Timo Zangief, and then Maestro Melazzi, uh, Petit Messe Solennelle on May 11, and the last concert, well, it's a big concert, the 8th Mal from Mala, conducted by Chaillet. Well, I hope you have purchased enough microphones. Yes, and it would be about wide angle, as we like to call it. When it comes to live streaming, there's something that I'd love to add. Clearly, there will be intervals. Well, in the event of Vesperi Siciliani, there are two different breaks, two different intervals, and the content is being managed by Paolo Besana and his team, and presented by Mario Acampa, who is one of our loyal collaborators when it comes to develop content for children and documentaries. Is also a TV expert, so we do totally rely on him. So the first interval of both operas and ballet is going to be managed by him. He will perhaps conduct interviews, live interviews from Ridotto around the foyer, and it works very well because also you can perceive, what's going on during the interval in the ridottos areas. And there, if there's a second interval, there will be some pre-recorded contents and documentaries which we have available, and they we will broadcast meanwhile. And this is as much as a live streamed event is concerned. Then, as the superintendent said already, we do have some readily available contents from the catalogue, And actually, if you log in today, you'll be able to access to six pre-recording titles, which we recorded over the past few months. I would say over the last 18 months. La Callisto is one of these. La Callisto from October 2021. And I think there's also an extract now, which I would be happy to share with you. Hopefully, the sound works, as I would like you to perceive a glimpse of both the sound quality as well as the image quality. So that was a short pull out from Callisto and Thais from Masne, which we recorded approximately 1 year ago. And from February 17th, I Capuletti and Montecchi will be there as well. And you will understand why from 17th of February onwards. On top of this, Madina, Sylvia, and Giselle, these are the three titles for ballet. Giselle, we do have a pull out to show you also. So I wish I could applaud also now. And then on top of opera and ballet, from the very beginning, we will have a second from Mala, conducted by Chailly once again. Over the course of the next few months, we'll also be adding a Don Giovanni, which has been recorded 1 year ago, La Gioconda, Ballo in Maschera, and a Piccolo Principe, Le Petit Prince di production, let's say, specially developed for families and children. And along with other contents, say, that the superintendent will explain in a moment. And as it has been said by superintendent, over the course of the next few months, we'll also be adding new live streamed event. So right after, let's say 7 days after the live event, we're going to make post production, and 2 months later is going to become available on demand from our catalog. So this was as much as the let's say events on payment, and then of course we will make available documentaries and other contents which will be made available to schools, and we'll be adding some historical recordings, and we're currently developing some agreement with RAI to be able to broadcast those titles. Thank you, Andrea. So, how do we market all this? Well, I try to be as neat and straightforward as possible. So there are two different ways. So on demand from our catalog, from the archive we spoke about before, but also we have the possibility of renting some live streaming. And first occasion is February 14th in Vesperi Siciliani. Based on this, we have assigned different costs, and such costs have to do with the quality as well. So we do have the possibility of renting HD very high quality, or else 4K. Now, prices may range from €2.90 when renting HD on demand concert recitals, and it may go up to €4.90 because we broadcast at 4K. Whereas if concert recitals are live streamed event, then let's say we either pay 490 for HD or 690 for 4K broadcast. And again, this allows us to watch a content for 72 hours. When it comes to opera and ballet, if you take on demand of an opera title with HD, bandwidth is 490, which goes up to 690 4K, whereas if we are renting live, 990 HD up to a maximum of €11.90 4K broadcast. So we have, let's say, analyzed and tried to understood what our users and viewers will be happy with, and we also benchmarked internationally as well as throughout the rest of the country. As we launch the platform now, we are, let's say, valorizing a price for each and every event. As a superintendent mentioned, we will be enriching this catalog, and as we do so, we will, let's say, introduce the possibility to subscribe on a more of a periodical basis. So purchase is very easy through any and exit circuit, and it is possible to purchase from all over the world, literally from any country, and they will be able to log in. The mechanism is fairly straightforward. Well, when it comes to international audience, we the website for La Scala features only two languages. But if you want to reach out to countries where they're speaking a completely different language, you must rely on an international organization. So, how did you work on that? Well, yes, we say that we want to reach out all over the world and the other way around, but of course, it is a bit more difficult to reach out some countries. Namely, if we take China as an example, we are currently in contact with local partners, although local sound a bit funny, but let's say that our local partners will allow us to disseminate our content through the local platform. We are also in contact with many diverse international distributors. As we understood, we very much captured the great interest from many different countries to reach out to us, to reach out to La Scala events. So we are currently having talks and let's say working on potential agreements with international distributors and platforms. Yes, the bottom line, for instance, if you want to go to China, unless you have a Chinese platform to rely on, there's no chance whatsoever. I clearly remember when we signed this agreement with Tencent in China, when I was back in Vienna, we had 50,000 connections in a single month. The scale is changing, but you have to find the right key, you know. I, I, I remember I was very naive at the very beginning. I was going to this press conference, and there were some 200 journalists in Beijing, and not a single streaming was being raised after that press conference. Not a selling, not a single one. And then, of course, we realized that we needed to rely on a local partner. And then we started from that. So this time we can skip this moment, we can skip this stage, so to speak. Everything we've introduced, it wouldn't have been possible in absence of our partners, which I'm very happy to introduce now and leave the floor to Mr. Paschina. Why do you want to help us? Come on, tell us. Well, this choice of helping just offers and strengthen the strategic partnership currently existing between Intesa San Paolo and Teatro alla Scala. We are, let's say that we are dealing with two different aspects to being able to take advantage of events digitally and live. You know, ever since the pandemic hit, we started to measure what was the attitude of our viewers towards digital versus live, and we realized that even when reopening theaters, they were both growing. So 70% of people, they said that they were happy to finally attend event on site, but those who were taking advantage of digital events, well, one quarter of them were still happy to take advantage digitally. So this means that they're both kind of supporting each other, and none of the two is detrimental to the other. So both channels are currently as successful, and this makes it possible for the things to be kind of intertwined. So you don't want to be, it's either on site or digital. That wall, that difference, that does not exist anymore. And you should also consider that before that pandemic, there would be, let's say, two cultural events that would be broadcasted digitally. They came to three and a half during the pandemic, and they're now stabilized in the three nowadays. I have to say that we've gained a great deal of experience as we launched a podcast channel, because I believe that the beauty, what's nice about the digital, is that it allows you to have a much more intimate relationship with the person you're talking to. Well, clearly there's a negative side to it. There's a downside because the large platforms, they almost know everything about us, and they kind of profile us, and they make us believe what we want. But if you see the positive side of it, well, that means that beautiful relationships are being developed, like it happens among human beings. So we did launch this podcast channel March 2020, and we reached out to over 10 million listeners. And last year, and I'll come to our partnership now. So last year, because we wanted to carry on building relationship, a healthy relationship with all of our users, we did launch a newsletter also to inform and to communicate what was new about our initiatives. And we're now reaching out to 12,000 people subscribing our newsletters, and they will actually have the possibility to have a preview of the titles that they may access on our institutional website. So those who are receiving the newsletters, they be having a preview of the contents that we are supporting. Well, thank you. I have to say that I'm so very happy because next to me, my two key partners of Teatro alla Scala. And when we talked about this project at the very beginning, you both said, yes, we are on board. Let's go for it. And you were there from day one, and your support will never be forgotten, and it's always been very strong. I mean, our teams, they've been working together for longer now, and the same happens in Fondazione Cariplo. I remember when we met, and I explained at the beginning what we wanted to do, what we were after. Perhaps you want to say something about it, Mr. Fosti. Well, thank you. I believe that this project, especially if I take the perspective of Fondazione Cariplo, it is a project of openness and a new horizon. And every time I walk into La Scala, I perceive this to be a magic place, a place where magic happens, but also a place that allows openness, a place where you can build, you can process beauty and culture. But this is also a place that believes that beauty and culture should not be, let's say, limited to what happens within the theatre, but should be disseminated elsewhere as well. And that is exactly the direction that this project is kind of paving in a way. And that is exactly the way Fondazione Cariplo looks at culture. We believe that culture has to be part of our daily life. It has to belong to everybody. It shouldn't be the exclusivity of a few people who are able to capture it as an opportunity. So the very perspective, the very goal of this project is exactly this openness. I understand it would not be easy from the very beginning, but the direction we have undertaken is the right one, and we're so very happy because this is even strengthening the collaboration between Fondazione Cariplo and Teatro alla Scala. Fondazione Cariplo, you know, during the pandemic and in the post-pandemic, we were kind of told that foundations should go some step back, should do some steps back and take care of other topics and other more urgent contingencies. This is something that I don't quite agree with, as I believe that culture will always be the right booster for growth, for the sake and for the health of the of community, and also for the economic system. And I also believe then that any resource that is being made, that is available, becomes available, has to be made available to the whole of the community. And I love this beautiful opportunity for schools as well. So we're so very happy to support Teatro alla Scala, and whilst we do so, we're likewise supporting a vision. And this is something that I'm really thankful for with the Superintendent Mayer, has I've always perceived his idea of pursuing culture very much embedded in the community and society. So I'm so very happy that we're on this direction. Thank you, Giovanni. So, what is it that we do for schools? We do have content available. We do have some pre-charge contents for schools. So, Lala Scali will be the first one that we're going to execute with Maria Campa, and then Piccolo Principe, Petit Prince, which we are currently, let's say, staging replicas. Over 60,000 children will have seen the 32 replicas in the theatre, but we want to go well beyond and being able to offer these performances to as many children as possible in schools in Italy, but not only in these countries, because also Italian schools located abroad can take advantage of the same contents. We are actually allowing also people the possibility for people to attend rehearsal of La Boheme in the theater, and also the children will be able to actually to see the performance itself. The cost will be very small, very limited. It will be 10 euros. I'm very keen that a small payment is made, because that is recognizing the value. There's effort, there's big work behind it. So symbolic payment, small, but it still has to be there. And there will be a documentaries being managed by Maria Campa, 5 titles in 2023. They will be made available free of charge to schools. And schools will have a very, let's say, facilitated way of purchasing these streamings, right? How does it work, Likauli? Well, our promotional office is reaching out right now to schools that we work with, but we're also reaching out to those schools which are not perhaps coming on a regular basis. So we do develop relationship with schools, or else we talk to the cultural managers within the cultural institutions. And just by simply entering the code that we will provide them, they be able to, let's say, allow their classes and small groups to access content. We have received a first request from the Italian school based in Madrid, and they will be having access to our content soon. Now, our dream is that this very mechanism might work everywhere. So, Italian Institute of Cultures might watch us from all over, and high schools might watch us from all over, and why not other schools speaking other languages? Because we mean to be international. It is still talking about the great openness that La Scala means to boost, you know. And so perhaps we took some time. Now we were waiting a bit because we wanted to provide the full range and the broadest overview possible of these offerings. And hopefully you're going to love it. You're going to like it. Are there questions? One, two questions, please. Relationship with the Rai in terms of broadcast the opening night, not has anything changed? Nothing has changed. We'll carry on. The comment cannot be captured. The lady is going to be provided with the microphone in a moment. I will reply all of your questions. My question was, so so opening Don Carlo will be broadcast on Rai and then on platform. No, 7 December will be broadcast by Rai television only. So and also some channels will only broadcast certain events. Hello, do you forecast the number of people accessing between now and end of year? Any outcome? No, no, zero, zero. How about budget? Have you budgeted anything? No, nothing's been budgeted. You know, we are starting. We are getting started now. We are obviously hopeful that we will be overwhelmed by tons of connections, but I can tell you now. So for the time being, we've developed the offering. And it is not dangerous, you know, for the budget of La Scala, if you allow me to say so, as the whole of the setup has been prepaid already. So the costs are bearable, a part of our budget already. And when it comes to the the compensation of our artists and our personnel, we do have a revenue recognition mechanism in place. So every time we'll be selling a single streaming, so the revenue has been recognized accordingly. And this is a mechanism that we're all happy with. I didn't want to rely on the older mechanisms, and so we still want to be totally cautious. You know, let's see. And hopefully, we're going to see lots of revenues and we're going to gain a lot of money. I don't know. I can't tell. I do know that international platforms are not necessarily very successful. You know, we still want to play safe. We want to be conservative, and we made it possible for no, let's say, no harm for the budget of La Scala to be in place. By the way, we're very healthy budget-wise. How about revenue recognition? Will that apply to artists as well as Scala employees? Of course, there's an agreement. I wouldn't have presented this project unless we had agreed upon it with our staff, with our people. Teatro alla Scala is a very important institution now, and it has been in the past. It is an institution that is welcoming the new productions, but at the same time, it is valorizing historical productions and repertoire over the course of the years. And this is the reason why Teatro alla Scala has beautiful collections in its archive. So my question is, when it comes to correlated contents, as you enrich the catalog, do you also foresee to have some content related to this precious archive you have, because this could be really attractive for passionate people, and it would be extremely useful material, especially for educational purposes. I totally understand your question, and I'm very interested in what you're saying. You know, what I'm saying now, though, is let's get started. We're starting with some live streamed event. We have a catalog, and we'll also incorporate a treasure from the past in our catalog. So, one step at a time. And then, of course, this will be an important activity, but still the tools allocated to it are quite limited. We are working with Paolo Besana on the archive right now as we speak. I think it makes sense to see what is the archive like right now, and how can we take advantage of it and make it available to a larger audience. And surely the platform that we're developing, it will makes the access, say, let's say, available. Let's just go step by step. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you all for attending. Thank you. And goodbye, everyone.